Welcome back to the Yoga Chat. I'm your host, Montana,
I am your host, May.
and we're very excited to be here again with a very special individual, the one and only Margaret Manning, a fellow MM, which is super exciting. Margaret has been practicing yoga for 20 plus years. She's from Milwaukee, but she lives in a Chicago suburb now. And a fun fact about Margaret is that she loves to travel the world. She's lived in 5 different countries on 4 continents and has visited more than 30 countries. She met
Oh,
her
wow.
husband, I know, right? She met her husband while they were both living abroad in Australia. He's from England and he has an amazing accent. So, welcome, Margaret.
Thanks, guys. I am so happy to be here. It has been my dream since the pandemic when I started listening to podcasts. I was like, one day I'm going to be a guest on a podcast. So thanks for making my dream come true.
I'm
You
glad we got to be the
manifested
ones.
that. Yeah, that's really special. How are you today?
I'm good. I just got back from England. I was
That's
there for
fun.
3 weeks. So
Oh, wow.
we're kind of over the jet lag. My kids yesterday woke up at 4 a.m. and today they woke up at 5 a.m. So we're kind of inching our way closer to a more normal time. But yeah, I'm doing good.
Yay, I love to hear that. Full disclosure, I've been trying to coordinate this with Margaret, and it's my fault that we're finally here though now. And so originally, one of the plans at one point was that Margaret was going to film from England, and then I was like, I can't remember what happened. Something happened, so we changed it to today. And she was like, "Well, now one of my main talking points, the fact that I was in England, I can't talk about it anymore. So thanks."
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna have to come up with new material now.
Yeah. So little background for the listeners. I met Margaret in a 300-hour YTT that I was co-facilitating with Emily Porterand and Zach Armstrong. Emily's been on the show, on the podcast. Also with Valerie Lucas, who is also on the podcast. We've tried to get Zach on here, but our schedules also haven't coordinated yet. So yeah, I feel like I know Margaret, even though I've only ever met her virtually. And I loved everyone that was a part of that group for sure. It was a really special group, and Margaret included. She's just always there, both as a trainee and really like a support system. Like, even when I didn't realize or think that I needed it, like we'd be done after a long weekend and everybody would log off and Margaret would stay on and just be like, "So how you doing?" And I'm like, I'm brain dead. How are you?" And she's like, "I'm good. I just want to make sure you're good." And I was like, "I love you." I could
Aw,
cry. So thank you
aw.
for being both a student and a teacher and a support system and grounding presence throughout that experience. I'm so happy that we got to meet each other through it.
Me too. That whole experience, that 300 hour was just like so special. It was like I looked forward to it so much. We met every Wednesday night and then we had monthly Friday, Saturday, and Sunday once a month. And it was like my life revolved around it. It just meant everything to me. It was so inspiring. I learned so much. And like just the way that it's built, the 300 hour. Are you going to do the 300 hour with Montana?
I'm in it right now, actually.
It started already?
It
Yeah, last night
started.
we talked about Purusha and Prakriti for hours, and my brain felt like it was exploding, and I was in some sort of like black hole time warp where nothing was real. And yeah, so that's where I'm at in a good way. Let me just point that out. Good in a good way.
What weekend are you guys on?
The first is this weekend.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, amazing. It's gonna be wonderful. Like just the biggest thing that I took from it was inspiration. Like I went into it kind of a regular yoga teacher. And I came out of it, somebody just like really enthusiastic about everything. Like all of my classes now, I like thoroughly plan. I've got like banging playlists. And now I'm like, they made me lead teacher after the training.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm leading a retreat in September to Ecuador. So it's like just being surrounded by all these other normal people who have all these dreams and ideas and they want to get things started, and then we kind of start sharing our passions. I think that's the biggest thing, is like opening up and being like, this is something I've always wanted to do. I'm going to share it with you, even though it feels really vulnerable. I'm going to say it out loud. I'm going to get it started. And then once everybody starts doing that, you're like, oh my God, we can do these things. Like, these are all things we can actually pull this stuff off. So at the end of the 9 or 10 months, whatever it was, I was just like a new person, a new yoga teacher.
I love hearing that. I'm
Me
super
too.
excited, but I'm also really overwhelmed just because, like, the 200 hour, when I went through the 200 hour, we ended up going all virtual because it was in 2020. So I'm really looking forward to having a yoga teacher training that's in person, that we get to meet and we get to spend time together. But it's also just like I forgot about going through it, and how that first couple of days or weekends you are so overwhelmed, like I don't know what I'm doing. So it's definitely humbling, but I like to hear how you feel on the other end of it. How I already can tell that everybody in our group, they already do inspire me, and everybody has really cool views on everything we're learning so far. Um, but I like to hear the end feeling, which was just inspiration and excitement and passion, because I have all of that already for yoga, but I also feel like I'm getting to a point where, like, I needed to learn more and expand to be able to, like, I teach so many classes a week that I'm at the point where sometimes I feel like I'm a robot, and like I'm just saying the same things over and over again, and I am cueing the same cues, and there's nothing wrong with them. It's just that, like, I hear myself saying them constantly. And so I'm like, I need to be my flame needs to be reignited, I think.
I think it's absolutely going to happen for you, because one of the biggest things that I got out of it, even though I just told you all the biggest thing, there's another biggest thing, was reading students' bodies. So like actually looking at the bodies of the people who showed up, and then thinking of actually, how am I going to explain to you like how I want to get you more in alignment, and just doing it kind of like faster and quicker and like in a new way. And they there was just like so many awesome exercises of just getting more creative with cueing, and thinking of all the different types of different cues. And I ended up when I would write my sequences in my notebook, I would take a post-it note and slap it on top of some like 5 new verbs that I wanted to use in that class. So for example, if it was like ooey gooey restore class, I was gonna write like melt, soften, elongate, and I like wrote those on the post-it. And then I would do the same thing for like my power classes with just like really empowering verbs. And that's just like one exercise that just kind of changed everything. And there's so many like that throughout the next 10 months. So
Good.
it's gonna work.
So
Yeah,
excited. Also, oh, Montana, you know what's funny? Your face has been frozen in the same position
really.
for like 2 minutes. And I was like, is she there? Like, blink twice if you're still there.
And I was just like,
You're
Meanwhile,
not
you're just
frozen for
super excited
me.
to hear two people talking about the 300 hour.
yeah, maybe I did look frozen just because I was like,
No, for real. I thought,
but I
I
was.
thought we lost you, but apparently you were just like in robot happy yoga
Yeah,
mode.
pure happiness. I talked about this when we had Emily Porterand on, but my biggest takeaway was that like there's no, I already know this. We all know that like there's no end point, like not to be morbid, but like the end point is death, right? There, and up until that point, you're forever evolving and growing and learning new things. And so I, before the 300 hour, would kind of like, for lack of a better term, like try to pretend that I knew more than I did, because to make myself feel like more confident, or like more uh what's the word, like I can't think of the word that I'm trying to look for, but like more valued in a certain situation or topic. And then in the 300 I realized like, wait, why it's so hard to explain how I felt, but it was like, why don't I just be where I'm at? Because I'm never gonna be where I'm never gonna finish. So
Yeah,
like be where I'm at, be proud of that, be like rooted and secure in that, and know that like I'm gonna keep going.
yeah,
Um, that was my
There's
biggest,
value in that. That is value. Like, just knowing where you're at and not pretending to be something that you're not for the sake of somebody else. And
because
I think
that's the
that, like,
block.
yeah. Yeah.
It was
And
the
so
word
it's
you're looking. Go ahead, May.
no. I was just gonna say and I think that you're doing a really good job in the 300 of like portraying that to everybody else is just like this isn't going to make you more valuable. This is going to give you more knowledge. Are you going to be done learning after this? Absolutely not. But I like how you're like there are no right or wrong answers most of the time, especially when we're talking about yoga philosophy. But it's just all knowledge. It's all
Mhm.
perspective, and we're just our perspectives are getting bigger, and that's what's going to make us better yoga teachers rather than like, oh, we know all of the 8 limbs by heart and what Jason what's his name Crandall
Randall.
said
Randall.
about Prakriti and Purusha, but it's more just like expanding your perspective on all of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Creating
It's the
more
word that
shades of
you
gray.
was the word you were looking for, credible.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
More credible. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I know exactly what you mean. And it kind of goes hand in hand with like imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Like why am I the one explaining this to you guys? Like, do I have the knowledge? Do I have enough
Yep.
credit? Do I have enough like street cred to be able to
Yeah.
explain this? And I think one of the things, like if you're leading like a workshop or a training, it's like someone's going to ask me a question that I don't know the answer to, and I have to be comfortable saying, I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah, that happened last night. One of the trainees was like, we were talking about the like 3 classical schools of yoga, and one of the trainees asked if Nidra came from Jnana yoga, and I was like,
I have
I
no
have no
idea.
idea. Let me look it up. And I literally, after training, started Googling it and like can't find anything. Nidra came from a student from a school that starts with a B. I can't even remember. It's not even something that we talk about in this 300 hour. And so then I started researching that school of yoga and like I couldn't find any correlation back to like the 3 classical schools. So I was just like, that's like such a cool thing to me. Like that makes me so excited that we're immersed in an experience that like Google doesn't even have a fucking answer to.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
Because it's
so
so
go
old.
ahead.
Like
Yeah,
the history is so
exactly.
old and so long. Do you know what I used to do, Montana, when I was a classroom teacher and the fourth graders would ask me questions I didn't know to? I just be like, that's a wonderful question. And I would have a wonder wall. And so I'd have them write the question on a post-it note and slap it up on the wonder wall. And then at some point, if somebody ever figured it out, we would like revisit it and talk about it.
I
That
love
just gave
that.
me goosebumps. We're gonna make a wonder wall. I'm gonna get a poster board and we're gonna have it. And
The
we're gonna
It's
do
300
fun.
hour wonder wall.
Mhm.
Yep.
That's gonna get deep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Some deep
I love
shit.
it.
All right. Well, let's reel back a bit. Margaret, what is
Yes.
your
Going back to Wayne
astrological
Campbell.
sign? Yes, I love it.
I'm a Capricorn.
Oh yeah.
Yay.
I could tell.
Yeah.
I
Can
could
you?
tell. I'm married to a
Facts.
Capricorn. He's a triple Capricorn.
What? Oh, whoa.
I
That's
know.
deep.
Only that stable energy could balance my chaos. So that's the way I look at it. But you seem very logical and like you have like a calming, like almost stoic presence. And that's just like all of my Capricorn friends, because I have like a best friend that's a Capricorn, a husband's a Capricorn. You immediately gave me Capricorn.
That's
I like you.
amazing.
I
I
like you,
love it.
Capricorns. You do good for me.
Do you guys want to know something fun? I lived
Yes.
in South Korea for 2 years, and I think they're kind of like into star signs, but one of the biggest things they're into is blood type. Yes, so this
Wait.
was at the time, it might have changed because this was like 2010. But it's always one of the first questions that they would ask me, what's your blood type? And then they thought so much of your personality traits were based on your blood type. And there would be like certain blood types that did not match together, and some that were like especially going to be drawn to one another. Um, so
That's
I always think
fascinating.
that's really fascinating. And it's like kind of cool because it's like I almost want to believe it more because it's like something that's in your body. Like this is your blood, it's in your
Yeah.
body, whereas the stars are like pretty far away.
Yeah.
What
So
is
a
your blood
fun,
type?
yeah,
I
what
am
is,
an A positive.
Okay. I'm
what's
type
And
yours?
O.
I only found that out because so many people asked me.
I don't know mine. I need to know mine. So I told my friend that recently and she's like, "Oh, you need to donate blood." And I was like, I guess I do. I guess I do. Another fun fact, in our YTT, in the 300 hour with Margaret, there was another trainee, her name's Georgia, and her passion project was creating like sort of like a community started via Instagram of like debunking like annoying things that happen within the yoga world. And then she went up,
That
during her
sounds fun.
presentation, it was really fun. It was very Georgia. It was very her. It was amazing. So she asked us to go around and share what annoys us and I've told you about this, May. Now you're connecting the dots. This was
Yes,
Margaret.
yes.
And she was like, all right, go around and say what annoys you about the yoga industry. And Margaret's like, I hate when yoga teachers talk about fucking astrology. Astrology and yoga are two different things. I'm here to do yoga, not learn about the fucking stars. And I was like, it was so
Yeah, that's me. It's funny because I was actually recently in a yoga
That's a
class.
very Capricorn thing for you to say, by the way.
I know. It's so skeptical, right? I was in this yoga class recently where the entire class was themed about like something retrograde happening from like beginning to end. And she said that because something was happening, technology was gonna like fail. And so she kept like accidentally triggering Siri on her phone. And then she was like blaming the stars for it. I was like, this
Oh.
has gone too far.
There's a line. We have crossed it.
Yes.
In truth, it was never my thing, and, like, I knew I was a Gemini, but I didn't know anything about anything, but getting into yoga, I've definitely been more, like, immersed in, this and that, but, my husband is always like that, like, I'll say something, he's like, "Oh, so just because the moon is over this, then the microwave's gonna break," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know." So, like, it is funny though, because it does sound ridiculous in when you talk about it, but it's just kind of the way I have it is like it's a fun,
Mhm.
whimsical thing that you can play around with. I'm not gonna like, change careers because my horoscope told me to or anything like that. But
Yeah.
some
Actually,
people
I
might.
was going to ask you guys this. I heard this recently on Armchair Expert. They said on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you think that your star sign impacts your daily life?
Impacts?
Yeah,
Um,
3,
3.
maybe 4.
I guess, well, like impacts, not very much, but like, um, what, but like, do I use it as a justification for my actions all the time? Like, for example, I just dropped off a gift to a friend. I put it in her mailbox. It was this little bracelet. And she texted me and she's like, oh my gosh, this is the best little gift, the best way to wake up in the morning, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I fucking left the price tag on it. Like, classic Sagittarius. Like, no, that's just an excuse because I forgot to take the price tag off of it. But, and I do that like 9 times. I would say at 9 out of 10
Yeah,
all the time. Uh,
Yeah, I use astrology to blame my bad behavior or the bad behavior of others. But other than that, like I wouldn't say it impacts my daily life. I'm not like,
yeah,
oh, I'm a Gemini, so today I need to drink tea instead of coffee. You know what I mean? I'm just
right.
but if
agreed.
like someone's being an asshole and then I see some lady running down the street in her underwear and a pair of socks, I'm like, oh, the moon must be full tonight or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Not living and dying by it, but it's
got
fun.
you. Well, how much, maybe if the word was, um, did I say impacts? Maybe like affects. Like how much do you think that the stars
Effect.
affect what you
I'm
do?
still going with 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a little higher on that because I think of, and actually Matt just said this to me, who's like the most, he is the skeptic of all. He's a Virgo, which is very Virgo of him. But he was listening to a podcast with, I don't know the dude's name, but he was an I can't remember even, I was about to say NHL, but no, NFL player. And he stopped playing because he just stopped playing. And he's like getting into human design and like astrology and
Is
stuff.
this Lewis Howes?
I don't know his name. I wouldn't even be able to tell you. But basically what he said and what translated to Matt and what Matt was like, hey, this guy said this and it actually tracks. Like I kind of agree with it, is that like the moon, the gravity and the moon together are what like create waves and tides in the ocean. So
Yeah.
if the moon is affecting the oceans, then the moon's got to have some effect on us. Now, it reminds me of that funny meme or reel of the girl that's like, no, Nancy, your ex-husband isn't being annoying because of the moon. Stop blaming it on the moon. Like, I will say, yes, there's that line, I cross it and use it more so like joking, like I'm kidding, but I'll use it as like an excuse for my bad behavior, or behavior that I'm not proud of. But I also do believe that like, we are affected by the solar system in some way, shape, or form. So middle ground. So I guess that would make me like a 5-6.
Okay, cool.
Really long
Ask
explanation.
Matt if that's the School of Greatness podcast when you get a chance, because
Okay.
like I'm pretty sure I follow that guy on Instagram. Some of the stuff they have on there is like pretty woo woo, but a lot of it is he has like a lot of like psychologists and neuroscientists, and like some of them come from a very science based perspective, and then he's got guys on there that are like, you should like stick a crystal up your butthole and then like wish to the stars for like what you were manifesting. But there's a lot of stuff on there that's like very science and like evidence based, and then there's some like woo woo crazy shit. But
Hmm.
I would say it's a pretty good mixture of both.
Cool. Yeah, I'll ask him. All right. So this is not a segue. It is, but it's a horrible segue. So Margaret, going back, will you give us and the listeners a little background, um, in regards to your life and what essentially led you onto a yoga mat for the first time?
Oh, okay, sure. Um, so I think I took my first yoga class in high school. It was like I think I took an alternative to PE because I like could not handle dodgeball. Like I could not play one more game of dodgeball. And so me and like my good friend at the time, Katie, signed up for this dance class. And I think it was like a 6-week unit. And she taught us the different poses and then just kind of I don't even think she really was like leading a class. She would just like say the poses and have us do them. Like just, like plank, cobra, down dog. Like literally just saying poses that she had taught us. I think that it was really gentle, kind of hatha type thing. And I actually loved it. So I might be one of your first guests who really liked it right away from the start. And I think that I was a yogi before I knew I was a yogi. Like, I think I wanted to be that. Did you guys, I don't think I told you, Montana, that before, like, I actually started teaching yoga right away when I was like a early practitioner. So I signed up for like a 2-credit class at the university at my college that I was enrolled in. And I was also taking group exercise classes in the dorms, and they were hiring. Oh, and like I filled out my application, and it was paper at the time, and I went and I like gave it to the person behind the desk, and they literally put it in this gigantic stack. I found out later that 70 people applied. They interviewed 2. One of them was me, and they asked me what I could teach, and I was like, I could teach yoga. And they were like,
Oh my
okay.
gosh.
So then they picked me. And so then for the next 2 years, I was teaching yoga as like this person who had like no credentials, no training, no clue. But I was like, how hard can it be? Like it's just moving and breathing. And I taught yoga for like 2 years in my early 20s.
What
That's
did
so
like
fun. I
one
didn't
of
know
your
that.
sequences look like at that time? Like
I
what would you
I
go
think
in?
Okay, so I think it was like all Pradapana. For you listeners who don't know what that is, like all spinal actions. Like I think I just did loads of cat cows, loads of barrel rolls. I think I would do them seated. I think I would do them standing. And then I think I knew some standing poses. So I'd be like, this is triangle, guys, and like teach them triangle. And then maybe a tree pose, and then a Shavasana. To
I mean,
weird.
good for you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
it's a
Thanks.
good college job. You could have been
Yeah.
flipping burgers.
Yeah, it was good. Then like I think around maybe 2005 or 6, they started to like the Yoga Alliance started to kind of catch on, and these like 200 hours kind of became a thing. And like there was no way I could explain to my parents that I wanted to do this ridiculous $3,000 training for, however long after I was like I took 5 years to finish college. My dad was like, just graduate.
Me too.
Yeah. So then I became a group exercise instructor for a while. And yeah, that I was like a gym yogi. Did yoga once a week or twice a week at the gym. Do you want my life story?
Yeah, tell us your life story.
So after college, I went to South Korea, and I was just going to stay for 1 year because it was my dream to live abroad for 1 year. But I loved it so much, I stayed for 2. And at the end of that, I was like, I'm really not ready to go home yet, but I think I'm done with Korea. So then I found out that Australia did 1 year working holiday visas. So I went to Australia for a year, met my husband. He, as you said in the intro, is from England and has a very adorable accent. And then, yeah, I went to my first like real yoga studio when we were long distance from Wisconsin to London. And I just missed him so much. I was crazy, honestly, with this like long distance longing for this man. So I joined this yoga studio, and it was so deep, man. Like they did so much Sanskrit, and like all of the classes were 90 minutes, and they broke it down like
Wow.
really hard workshopy style poses. Um, and then I moved to London, and I could be with him. Then
Did you
I
teach in
joined
London?
this like, what's that?
Did you ever teach in London?
I did teach in London.
That's so fun.
So we started at this like studio. It was called Try Yoga, which had like the best yoga teachers in London. The London yoga scene, you guys, is unbelievable. Like there are so many fantastic teachers in London. It's just a huge booming industry there. And I went into she's now like Instagram famous. Her name is Celeste Pereira. I went to her classes, and she was just phenomenal. Like one of those teachers who, when you're in her presence, is just like this beaming ray of sunshine, and she explains everything so clearly. You just want to be in her presence. And after a few months, she invited me and my husband to come with her to Bulgaria, where she was filming this
Oh my gosh.
for something that was called Udaya. It's like a online streaming of yoga. And so we got to go and be with like hundreds, maybe 150 yogis, all filming all these yoga classes. Um,
That's so
and
cool.
yeah, it was pretty epic. That was where I like decided I was like, I'm gonna become a yoga teacher.
What do you think about her made her so magnetic? Like, I know you can't probably describe it if it was just an energy, but was it actually her style of teaching, or do you think it was just her overall vibe that made her classes so good?
I think it's the combination. She's like, I mean, I guess if she was on Broadway, she'd be like a triple threat. Like she's just her personality, honestly, is just glowing. Like you are in her presence, and she's just like this big smile, and it's so authentic, and she just wants to hear what you have to say. She's a fantastic listener, and she like giggles a lot. Um, and then her classes were just extremely intelligently sequenced, and you could achieve these peak postures that you never thought would have been possible because of how intelligently she sequenced. and her playlists were just amazing. Yeah, she was definitely one of those phenomenal teachers. If you're ever in London, you should definitely make your way to one of her classes.
My neighbor Miranda is in London right now and she comes to Yoga 6. I'm going to text her and be like, go to, what was her
Yeah.
last name?
Pereira.
Celeste Pereira?
Yep.
Okay.
So I think her like Instagram handle is Celeste Pereira Physio, I believe. Sorry, Celeste,
Cool.
if I got that wrong.
Apologies.
Yeah, but
So
she has a great Instagram.
what at what point did you guys move from London to Chicago?
It was 2017, so I stayed there with Matt for 4 years. And London is amazing. I love it. It's definitely like my second city. It's just so there's always something going on. But when you live there, I'll be honest, especially in the winter, the days are really short. The sun sets
Mhm.
before 4 p.m. It's dark at like 3:50.
Oh my
And so
gosh.
yeah,
Ooh.
it's wild. Because they're really far north. If you look on like a map at the latitude rather, they are super far up there. And you're oftentimes underground riding the tube everywhere and it's noisy. And I think that they have a big issue with depression there.
Mhm.
And I 100% think that it's because people are underground and it's dark.
Yeah. Yeah, and that makes sense.
Yeah. So we got out of there after about 4 years. And then when we moved to Chicago, just decided to start our family.
I
So
love
you
that.
teach at Yoga 6 in Chicago then?
It is a suburb of Chicago, so it's the Yoga 6 Glenview.
Okay. What led you to Yoga 6? And like after being in so many different studios and styles of
Mhm.
teaching, when you first approached Yoga 6 and their methodology and their language formula, were you at all like put off or did you love it right away? Did it take a minute for you to adapt?
It's taken me it took me 2.5 years
Okay.
to adapt and accept and love. And I'll tell you, um, I was kind of resistant in the beginning, especially the big thing was not chanting Om.
Mhm.
That was the one for me. But I have the tremendous fortune of the lead teacher was Ansley Davis. And I mean, she's one of the best of the best.
Mhm.
So I would go to her classes and she was doing all the language formula. She was doing everything exactly Yoga 6. And I realized that I could really like drop into myself. Like it's very much the style that it takes off from the teacher. Like it's not centered around the teacher at all. It's very much like this is your practice and I'm guiding you through it in the way that the language formula just allows you to really be in your body and experience that 60 minutes to yourself. Um, that was the thing that like was the thing that sold me on Yoga 6.
We always talk about this how like if you're not a yoga teacher and you go attend two different classes and one of them is taught with the yoga 6 methodology or the language formula and you go to another one that's not, without even knowing the difference between the two, you feel different when you leave. And like you just said, it's because with the one you are able to drop into your body, you're able to kind of turn your brain off and follow along to this guidance, whereas the other not so much. And I think that we were just talking about this in our 300 hour, actually our group chat, you can feel the difference of a class of two different classes and you might not understand why you feel different, but you do. And I think that's what the language formula and the methodology does in the Yoga 6 is just like it provides an experience that I don't think you even understand that you're getting at the time until you really start to, until you go through yoga teacher training. But I can feel the difference between even taking like a Yoga 6 class and then taking one on even the Peloton app because I don't feel in my body when I take those classes. And they're fine. They're great. They're world-class instructors, but the feeling isn't the same to me. And it took me a while to figure out why. And I truly think it's because of the language formula and the methodology of the intelligent sequencing and the wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, it just makes sense and it feels good.
I totally agree. And, I think I had a bee in my bonnet, as they say in England, because Ansley failed me the first time. I taught the hot sequence, just like a portion of it. And my feedback was that I said, inhale, right leg rises, rather than inhale, lift your right leg to the sky or whatever. And I was like, this is yes. I was like furious. I don't know if Ansley's listening to this. Ansley, I don't know if you know how mad I was, but I was. I love you, don't worry. But yeah, but thank goodness I auditioned for two classes, because I also auditioned for sculpt, and I did my sculpt block well. So I got my foot in the door that way, and then she had me like re-audition for the hot. Also, I said so much weird stuff in hindsight. Like, I was talking about bowing down to your queen, whether it's Queen Elizabeth II or Beyonce, like offering your flower petal in Dancer.
That's
And everyone's
amazing.
just like, click, click. Like, nope.
I think that brings it back to what you said, Margaret, is like what the language formula does. Is it around the student and off of the teacher? And I think that what you just described, like as like, as like the word that's coming to mind is cute. Like as cute as like serve your flower petal or like bow to your queen is like, and it's okay if those kind of things pop in and out occasionally, right? But like for me, if I'm taking a class and a teacher says something like that, not in a good or a bad way, but that's going to take me out of my body and my experience and focus on the teacher, like, ha ha ha, that's cute, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that, but it definitely affects the energetics of an experience where from the moment you start to the moment you finish, you're in this like trance of like what's happening within your own experience rather than like this visual that this teacher's painting for you.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and they're both, like I keep saying it, but there's not right or wrong, but they're just different ways. So yeah, that's interesting. So how has it been transitioning from going from like, this is really hard, I'm not buying in, to sold, to the 300 hour, to now lead teacher?
Um, it's interesting. I think, I got stuck in my ways for a while. And I would do it the Yoga Six way because I've always been a very good employee who does the thing that I'm supposed to do. But I was like irritated on the inside. And I think just over our 300 hour, just all the discussions of all the different ways and the different reasons, and like I understand now why I shouldn't say something like, this is how I like to do it. Like, is that Levi?
That was denim. Can you repeat that, please?
Oh yeah, sure. I just, when a teacher is at the front of the room and they say something like, well, this is how I like to do it because I have short arms or whatever. It's like, all of a sudden I'm like, what, do I have short arms? I don't know if I'm supposed to do it that way or not. And then just like with the language formula, realizing how much you can explain in a clear way. So like, for more heat, do it this way. For more ease, do it that way. I just think it's so much more clear and kind, and it doesn't bring the teacher into the center of the focus, and it makes people just really feel like this is about them and this is their hour. I remember Zach Armstrong in one of our classes talking about, he said like there's always like teachers who are resistant to the Yoga Six way, and maybe they I don't know, they just don't want to do it for whatever reason. They've been trained differently. And he was like, either you'll come around or you won't. And I remember just like crossing my arms and being like, well, not me, Zach. I'm stuck in the middle. I half the time love it and half the time don't. But now I think I've just realized like I'm teaching at this studio. Like, this is the way I'm supposed to teach. I wouldn't go to an Ashtanga yoga class and start teaching Vinyasa yoga, and they wouldn't be okay with that. Like,
Yeah.
they'd be like, this is a Ashtanga studio. You can't bring your Vinyasa here. It's the same, like, you can't just come to a yoga six and be like, well, I'm gonna teach Ashtanga or I'm gonna teach Yin because that's what I do and I think it's better. It's like, well, no.
Yeah, I
You have to
know.
teach it this way if you want to work here.
Yeah. And if you don't want to teach it this way, then you don't have to work here.
Yeah.
That's like such a, being a master trainer and facilitating bridges, like that's something that always boggles my mind is when there are the resistant teachers that are like, well, it should be this way. And I'm like, look, I might even agree with you in another situation. Sorry.
All right.
So sorry about that. Levi and Denham were having a moment. But yeah, it's like, it's so obvious to me, and the way you just explained it to Margaret is like, it's just so clear. It's like, this is one way, this is a way, and if you're interested in doing it in the walls of this space, great. We are happy to support you and host you in doing that. And if you're not interested in it, then there's a million other yoga studios across the street where you can teach in different ways, and they're all great ways. They're just ways.
Yeah.
It
True.
just depends. Um, so another question that I have is, I kind of asked this and then got distracted by the dogs, but how has it been transitioning into your lead teacher role?
I love it. It's the best job on the whole planet. I can't believe how lucky I am. So when I started teaching at Yoga Six, I think I was teaching one class a week, and I was just thrilled to have a free membership at a yoga studio. And now I'm just like, I can't believe that I get paid to like talk about yoga. I can't believe how lucky I am. Like, um, it's really like our teachers, you guys at your studio, the way you talk about it, it sounds like you have this like fantastic dream world. And like, that is amazing, you guys. We also just have a fantastic team of teachers at our studio. Everybody is so talented. And so the fact that I get to like go to their classes, and get paid to do that is unreal. And then I just get to talk to them about yoga and like share ideas. And the manager that I work with is so cool. She's always got great ideas and wants to chat about yoga and cool yoga studio stuff. So I can't believe my luck in short.
Yeah,
I love
I
it.
feel that we cracked the code on that one. Yeah, we really do have such an awesome, it's like, it's crazy. It's like this really double-edged sword thingy majig in my mind where like there's a lot of people at at our studio who have taken yoga for many years and who have experienced different genres and teachers and communities, and they recognize the differences of this one, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. And then there's also a lot of people who just started their yoga journey here, and I'm like, they have no idea how good they have it. I don't mean
Yeah.
to like toot my the Yoga Six South Hills horn, but it really is a well-oiled machine that is filled with really amazing human beings, essentially. And that's not to say it's the only well-oiled machine that's filled with amazing human beings. There's lots of those. But there's also lots of like, you know, the opposite of that. And so I'm really happy to hear that you guys have your own version of your little dream wonderland in
Yeah.
Chicago, because it really is cool. Like that's the yoga is a part of it, but there's so many other elements that come with community and being in this space where you like feel comfortable to challenge yourself and to make a mess and to clean it up, and then to like talk to your friend about what you're doing this weekend after that in a pile of your
Absolutely.
sweat. It's really, it's
Absolutely.
cool. It's
I love
special.
I love that. And the whole thing about like making a mess and then cleaning it up. I was in one girl's class who teaches at our studio, and she had this really creative sequence, and she went through the first round of it. And like I just kind of saw her as a teacher. I wasn't lead teacher at this time. I was just in her class. This was like months ago. And she totally fucked it up. And then she kind of threw it away. And then she came out with this whole new dynamic warrior flow that I think she just had in her back pocket. And at the end of class, I like talked to her about it and I was like, that was so cool. I was like, I'm probably the only person who noticed what was happening. But like, that was so cool how you tried this incredibly creative sequence, realized it didn't work, and then course corrected. And then the two of us talked about it. And she was like, she troubleshooted right there in front of me where she went wrong and like how she accidentally turned left instead of turning right. And so then she tried it again a week later and like was able to pull it off. And I was like, that is so cool that this is a space where you can come here and you can try these things and fuck it all up. And like you're still in good hands.
Yeah,
No one's gonna yell at you for fucking up your sequence, especially if you're
Exactly.
trying so hard.
exactly. Yeah.
I've worked at those studios where if you said or did the wrong thing, you would hear about it, and it kills your confidence. It makes you feel, not at ease. And then I don't think anybody is at their best when they don't feel at ease. And the one thing I have always loved about working at Yoga 6 was that the feedback I received was always really constructive and helpful. And it came from a place of wanting, and it came from a place of encouraging growth rather than making me feel like shit. And I think that that's a really nuanced skill to be able to give feedback that helps people truly and encourages them to continue to grow as a teacher rather than makes them feel like shit or like they don't belong. And most of the time, and that's like not even just in yoga but in the fitness world, I have seen so many just shitty awful people giving feedback that just like will crush a person rather than actually help them. And that's, I think, a skill that, like, I don't know how you got that, Montana, or even just in general, even from the owners of our studio. All of the feedback given is always it's helpful and encouraging and not the other way around. So, but I
I
don't know
think
if that's
it's
a Yoga
because
6 thing.
I think it is. And Montana, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like on the 300 hour, we did a lot of feedback and we give each other feedback through the empowering feedback model. And so it's basically like you ask them how they feel, and then you kind of tell them all of the good things that they did. And then you ask them either what they're working on or like one thing they want to try next time. And then you just kind of like help them figure out how they're going to do that. And so it is really empowering to hear all of the good things you did and then be like, well, I am working on this one thing. And then they like help you.
Hmm.
And it's just such a great community for growth.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think that like system or structure combined with the individual giving feedback, knowing their motive. So like for me, even in the beginning, when I first started teaching or when I first stepped into the lead teacher role, I like felt really talk about imposter syndrome. I've been teaching for less than 2 years and I was like, how am I going to give these people feedback? Like, who am I? What credit do I have to provide that? And so I thought in the beginning, like, okay, well, my motive is to support all of us, myself included, as the person, quote unquote, giving the feedback in getting better, not in like discussing or debating what's right or wrong, even if it's within the methodology, which is clear, like you're doing it or you're not doing it. So it's like if the motive is to support and up level and help someone grow and become better, paired with the system that works, which is the
Mhm.
empowering feedback model, then it's like there's how someone perceives that or takes that is much more likely to be in a positive, empowering way. But also, if someone takes it in a not positive or empowering way, and your motive is clear and you're using an empowering system to get to that place, then how someone feels about that is their
Right.
responsibility, not yours. You know,
Yeah.
that's hard too, to detach from how someone feels about receiving feedback, because it's hard no matter what, because we always want to like succeed. And in order to succeed more, we have to focus on where there's room for growth. But it's scary because
It
we
is.
want to be perfect. We want to do everything right.
Yeah, but
think
if
a
you
lot
can't
of
receive feedback, like that's also something that I feel like is something you need to work on. Because feedback is part of life, no matter what job you're in, no matter if you're married, in a
Exactly.
friendship, a parent, you need to be able to accept feedback from others. And if you can like look at a person who's giving you feedback from their heart that's meant to encourage and grow, and you can't accept that, that's on
A
you.
deeply rooted, yeah.
Yeah,
Because like you said, it shows up in every aspect of life.
every aspect.
What were you going to say, Margaret?
I don't know, but amen.
But amen.
Amen, sister.
So that leads us to our final question. Do you think yoga can change the world? Yes or no, and why?
I have a brand new answer for you guys.
Ooh.
It's
It
fun.
already has.
Ah,
Yeah.
Amen.
that's the juice.
Can you please do the thing? Oh, this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Yep.
Now it looks like we're opening a pickle jar. Now Montana's
Um,
frozen now again holding the juice.
nice. Yeah, guys, I mean, it's been around so long. I think it's had a significant impact already. It has to have had a significant impact already. Like, it's just in promoting health, well-being, happiness. I know that the amount of individuals' lives that it has impacted has been huge. And the people that we have coming to our classes, we've got firefighters, police officers, teachers, judges, like all of these very important members of our community who are coming to us to find ways to relax and deal with their really high stress.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, obviously we have to give them all the credit for the hard work that they do, but absolutely, I think that the snowball effect, the butterfly effect of going to yoga, attending yoga classes, I think that it's huge. And also like all of it has kind of found its way into healthcare, into psychology. A lot of like counselors and therapists are kind of prescribing it, so to speak. A lot of doctors are telling their patients to go to yoga. It's in, corporate culture. I think it's like really difficult to quantify the exact impact that it's had on the planet. But I know that it's just had a huge impact on the planet. And in the short time that we inhabit the earth, like we're only here, let's say we're here for 100 years. I mean, just in the large scale of how long yoga has been around, we're just going to see a little tiny blip on the radar of what it can do for people, what it can do for the world. And I think it's going to just keep growing.
That's my favorite answer. I've said it.
Yeah. Ooh, Montana's got favorites.
Thanks, Montana.
Yeah, no, it's just such a great perspective because like we are like in the grand scheme of yoga from where it started to where it's at now, if we were to live for 100 years, it's like a little tiny millisecond of getting to experience this vast ancient practice that's not going anywhere. So I just love that room. I love reminders of how small we are, but
Mm-hmm.
of how we can still show up in really big ways, because that like makes me feel inspired to soak it up even more, because it's like it's now or never for us, but it'll be there. It's been there way before us and it'll continue to be there way after us. And it's the root of why we're having this conversation and why we facilitate this podcast. So thank you, Margaret, for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Margaret.
you,
I hope to
guys.
be in Chicago at some point and to come take your class. That would be fun.
I know
Heck
there's
yeah.
lots of people in Chicago that we need to go take class from.
We should
True.
do like a tour of Chicago, guys.
I would love that.
Come on over.
I
We'll
want to
set up
go
a
to the
schedule.
Bean.
Yes.
You want to go to who? The Bean?
I want to go to the Bean and I want to eat a Chicago dog. And then I want to take all the yoga.
Yeah.
Fantastic. You want to go to, I still haven't been to Bradshaw's class.
Yeah, we have to go.
We
I
have
love
to
how
go.
I'm on a first name basis with him. He has no clue.
I
who
want to
Yeah.
I want to go to his class and take all the props and be all of the people that he makes fun of in his reels.
I know. So great.
When he was on the show, we like forgot to introduce ourselves. And then at one point May was like, "Oh, by the way, I'm May." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm Montana. I'm acting like we're friends." And he like laughed. He's like, "Ha ha ha. I thought that you guys were from Montana. I thought you were in Montana." I was like, "Oh my God.
Just
We
two
really
little
think that
farm
he
gals
knows
teaching
us."
yoga.
You know, I really liked his episode. He was so much less jokey than I thought he would be.
Mhm.
Do you know who else I really loved? Well, I loved everybody, but I loved your wellness advisor that you had on, Maddie,
Oh,
Maddie.
she's
and
Who
amazing.
doesn't love Maddie?
her explanation of the tortured yogis department?
Yes.
Dude, can you like get this girl to like can she like sell me this workshop? Because I want to lead it.
That's a great idea. We should get it on
Yeah.
the
Maybe
6th.
Maddie needs to go on a tour of
She's coming with
doing her
us.
tortured yogis department. Yeah, we'll bring her to Chicago. She
Yes.
can
Oh my
teach the
gosh.
workshop at your studio while we frolic and eat hot dogs.
That sounds good.
Okay.
I should
Exactly.
probably attend the workshop too.
Yeah.
And then you had this other guest who told us about her trip to Bhutan.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
Christy.
That was so cool. All of
Yeah.
your episodes have been amazing. Those are the ones that stood out.
Christy sent
Thank
me a
you for
picture after
listening.
that episode, the picture of who's the Richard Branson. He was like on her flight. And
Mhm.
after we talked about it, she sent me pictures of him on the flight and he was just like schmoozing and walking up and down the aisles, like just talking to everybody. But yeah, that episode was really wild.
Yeah, she's
It's good to
super
talk
cool.
about the ones we've had because we've had so many now and I've loved all of them, but like I like reminiscing. We should do that more often.
Have
We
a
should.
reminiscing episode.
Yeah.
Montana, you were supposed to tell me your top tips for leading your first yoga retreat.
Oh yeah. So I did. I
Too
led
late.
my first a few weeks ago. So it's different. So the one that I just led was basically like a shell, and we showed up and did everything. Whereas like what will happen in Tulum, and I'm assuming in Ecuador, is like you go to a retreat space and you're like in charge of the retreat content, but like the facility itself and the food and like the extracurricular activities are all there for you. So um ask your question again so I make sure I answer it properly.
Top
Top
tips.
3
Top
tips.
tips for leading your first retreat.
So number 1, if you're hosting a retreat in a shell where you're doing everything, one person as the chef is not enough. Our dear friend Nicole, I mean, like shed blood, sweat, and tears that weekend. And I'm so grateful for everything that she did. But when we go back in August, she will have a sous chef because it was way more work than I would have ever anticipated. I think she kind of had an idea, but still she didn't even know just how much work it was going to be. It was nonstop for her. So that was number one biggest takeaway. Or like hire a catering company. Like it's way more work than you think feeding 22 people. 2, I would say just like so for me, I love to host. I host people at my house all the time. I didn't have a wedding planner because I wanted to plan it myself. Um, so like being able to find the happy medium of like, I am here to host, but I'm also here to have my own experience as a facilitator. And I think I did a pretty good job of that. This is a personal thing. Like I felt like I was hosting the dinner party per se, but I also was able to like be a part of the container itself. Whereas like in a YTT training, I like to create like a thicker boundary. Like I am your in a 200 hour, I should say, like I'm your facilitator and you guys are the trainees. In the 302, it's a little bit less, like there's a little bit more flexibility there. But for the retreat, it was like, I'm the facilitator, but I'm also on the retreat with you. So being able to like walk that line, I think is a really big tip. And then 3, um, so this isn't something that I like took from the retreat, but it was something that my mentor, a tip that she gave me, and I thought that it was really helpful, is to, I don't exactly remember how she said it, but basically to make sure that you give everyone the space to talk about themselves, and you only ever talk about yourself if someone asks you or you're prompted. Um, so that it really gives people the opportunity to feel the impacts of what a retreat can do for you, whether it's 2 nights or 5 nights or 8 nights. Um, because by giving them the space to talk about themselves and really just putting yourself in the position of a listener, that's how like breakthroughs happen. And by taking that tip from her, Catherine, I feel like I was able to give people the space to experience whatever it was or work through whatever it was that they wanted to work through in 48 hours. And if I didn't have that tip, that reminder of just like listen, just listen, I don't know if there would have been as much room for everyone else to have those breakthroughs. So that's a really long answer, but 3, 1, you
Yeah.
need more than one chef. 2, walk the line of like facilitator. Oh, I love when the balloons happen. Of facilitator, but also like a part of the experience. Like you're out of it, but you're also in it. There's no like hierarchy. And then 3, really give everyone else permission to talk about themselves, and you're just in the seat of the listener.
That's
I love that.
amazing, amazing advice. Thank you. I will take that to heart.
Yeah.
Got my first retreat coming
That
up
sounds similar to
in
just even
September.
like sorry. I think we're on a delay, so every time there's a silence, I feel like I'm talking and then you start talking. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you. It's not non-interrupters. Finish what you were saying though.
Just that was like such good advice. I'm definitely going to take it to heart. We leave in September for our trip to Ecuador, and I'm in really good hands because the person that I'm co-facilitating with has led a lot of retreats. It's like what she does um, it's her own business, and she's been to this specific place multiple times. And we do have 2 chefs.
Yay.
Yeah, and I think I'm just really really looking forward to it. But like what you said, like just making sure to listen. I think I can do that. It's a really good reminder because oftentimes like in conversation you like go back and forth and like like intersect like your own like oh yeah and this is what happened to me or like sometimes maybe trying to like one up like the story, just trying to keep that in perspective like I am there in this specific role so that they can really feel heard.
Hmm.
Good advice.
Yeah. It's the same as like facilitating a class. Just you're not there. They're there because they like your class, but they're not there because they want you to be the star. They're there because they like the way you hold space. That's a good reminder in general.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, Margaret, thank you so much for your time. And I'm so excited for your endeavors and experience in Ecuador. I know it's going to be amazing. And everyone that gets to be a part of it is very lucky. So one day we'll be on a retreat together. I know it. I know it.
It was
I do believe so. I really want to come to one of
it
your
was very nice meeting
Ohio.
you.
It was lovely to meet you too. I think the delay is happening
I
again.
know.
But Montana, I definitely want to come to one of your Ohio retreats. I'll be there
Yes,
at some point.
I'll keep you posted on next year's dates for sure. Um,
Okay.
Yay. All right. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for your time. Thank you, May, for your time as always. And thanks to our listeners. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye, guys.
All right.
Bye.
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 Oh my gosh, I just pressed cancel. Oh.